Princess and friends, all love. When you talk to me, it's all love. This Princess and friends.
Hi guys, welcome to another great episode of Princess and Friends. Thank you so much for joining me. I am here with another amazing guest. I'm so happy to have her in the studio. I've been waiting a long time for you, girl.
I know. Happy to be here.
Oh, thank you, sweetie pie. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, guys. I'm Jordan. I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm a mother of two. Excuse me. I'm an entrepreneur. I do all kinds of stuff.
Oh, amazing. So I like how you just played yourself down the stage. It was like, I'm an entrepreneur. Okay, so what
Dibble and dabble.
what does an entrepreneur look like?
So what does it look like? It looks like hard work.
Because every time I speak to you, I learn something more. You're like, oh, you do know I do this, and you do know, and I'm like, no, I didn't know that.
Do you know what? To be honest, I didn't realize I've probably been an entrepreneur since I was in my early teens.
Oh wow.
I was in care from a young age.
Mm-hmm.
And basically just dibbled and dabbled in my talents to make money.
Mm-hmm.
So hair being one of them, mentoring being another one of them, like, you know, looking after young people, whatever the case may be. At the moment, I coach and mentor young people.
Oh, that's amazing.
I do, not just any young people, vulnerable young people, people who've come from war, troubled dynamics in the home, out of the care system, stuff like that. I'm wrapping up my first book. So I'm hoping for that to be on shelves before Mental Health Week next year.
Oh my gosh. What's the book about?
It's like mental health poetry. So basically it's like each poem drops, you know, when people say there's like a silver lining, look for the silver lining in every dark cloud, basically. So, you know, a lot of the time when I see a lot of poetry, not saying there isn't other stuff out there, but a lot of the poetry are like flowers and butterflies.
Yeah.
Or it's about love and just being passionate over someone. For me, it was a healing. I started my healing journey, and I've always written poetry since I was a kid. So that was kind of my way of navigating myself. When I basically look back over these hundreds of poems that I'd written, I realized that each poem had one small jewel in there. That basically direct you and help you to a more positive direction despite the obstacle.
Right.
So I thought it would basically be a really good mental health poetry help book for people to basically use and just like reflect back on. So I'm practically finished. Wow. I'm just going over the final touches, and Mental Health Week is April. So I'll have it out on shelves before then.
That's phenomenal. I've just learned something new again. Like I had no idea.
Yeah, I'm very busy.
Wow, you're a poet.
Busy. Yeah, I'm a poet. Well, that's how I started to begin with, writing stories and poetry as a kid.
Okay.
And then when I got to maybe like 9 or 10 is when I started like expanding my writing skills with work, you know, music and stuff. So
right. Okay. So do you think that all musicians are poets?
Yeah, I do, definitely.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
That's
dope. Yeah. One way or another, we've all got poetry to feed people, without a doubt. And poetry doesn't have to rhyme. And when I say poetry, I mean life experience is poetry. Especially how you come out of it. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I would say all musicians are poets, definitely.
And you started writing poetry at a young age?
I started writing poetry when I was young. I'm talking 5, 6. I've always been like academic. Okay. You know what I mean? English has always been a big thing. Always just reading books, always writing stories. It was also a way of escape for me out of like my turbulent childhood.
Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
So like basically, I grew up in a home with 3 other siblings. I was the only girl. I have a mum that suffers with bipolar.
Okay.
And a lot of the time that meant that she wasn't present. Not emotionally, definitely not. And a lot of the time physically, because she spent a lot of time, she worked a lot, but when she stopped working, it was sort of like just severe depression.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And she just wouldn't come out of her room. She kind of stayed locked in her room, and me and my siblings would kind of pick up the slack in certain ways. And a lot of the time, a lot of it would fall on my shoulders being the only girl.
Were you, are you the eldest?
Cleaning. No, I've got 2 older brothers. I'm the middle child, basically, and a younger brother. So there's quite a substantial gap between me and my older brothers, 8 years and 6 years. But they were out doing what they were doing. And do you know what I mean? Teenagers, not really present and probably not as aware as I guess I was as as a female child.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? With certain things going on. And then before my parents split up, there was a lot of domestic violence, like intense, a lot of it, constant.
Right.
So me and definitely my younger siblings spent a lot of years in fear, just, you know, like walking on eggshells. What's next going to happen? Is mum going to be here today? Is dad going to be here this weekend? It was just constant upheaval. Didn't know where our mum was at times. She'd disappear for days on end. Do you know what I mean? It was just, there was so much uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
And when there wasn't uncertainty, it was fireworks.
What do you mean fireworks? Oh,
so my parents would fight a lot. My parents would fight a lot. And then, you know, the term monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah.
So being in the house with my brothers, I would say that all of us were like emotionally stunted to a certain extent because our parents were.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the reality of it. Do you know what I mean? So we used to fight a lot and just get into it with each other when our parents weren't at home.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
So how did your parents respond to that?
A lot of the time they didn't know.
Right.
My dad and my mum divorced when I was about 12, 13.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, my dad wasn't in the house for a couple of years anyway.
Okay.
So to be fair, majority of the time, my mum was like the one that was responsible for us.
Mm-hmm.
And when she wasn't in the house, it was my older brothers that would navigate. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I would just say we were all kind of nuts, to be honest with you. Wow. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
and
that's
just used to fight and
self-awareness.
batter bells out of each other. You know what I'm saying? And being the only girl, that taught me to be really damn tough.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I would say with that and loads of other things that were going on, with my mum being unwell, I don't think she realised the effect of her words towards me or the effect of her lack of emotional connection and what that actually did to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? As a young person, very detrimental for me on my mental health, you know, just how I navigated myself as a young woman, all those kinds of things. I don't think she realised.
So what do you mean in regards to kind of if you had done something wrong, would she like severely chastise you? What type of situation?
Sometimes I would get chastised for not doing anything wrong.
Right.
So like I could, and that's what I mean when I say that I have to put that there, that bipolar is a disease, man. It's not just a mental health issue where, you know, people get depressed. It's real. Mm-hmm. The neurological lineup is just off.
So how would you describe bipolar? What type of behavior, what type of patterns are presented?
I would say that the reason why my mum wasn't aware of my own emotional needs, or maybe a lot of us, but I'm going to speak for myself, was because she was so wrapped up in her own. And even though she was so wrapped up in her own, she still didn't even know what she needed. Do you get what I mean? I've experienced depression myself, so I'm very much aware that you can get in this dark hole and be like, how the hell do I get out of this space? You can be trapped in that for years. And some people, I'm not saying that my mum's choosing to be that way, but some people are comfortable in that place because it takes so much damn work to get out of that hole.
Right.
So I say that's where I began to develop compassion for my mum and her experience, but it took a long time. You know what I mean? I'm like the fairest out of my siblings. I'm very fair, like my dad's mum. She's really, really fair. And so I used to get teased by my siblings and my mum for my complexion.
Wow. Usually it's the other way around, isn't it?
That's what people think, that it's more so. But it's I don't know what the word is. It's like internal racism. It's like, do you get what I mean? Like being compared to the white walls and colours of grey in the winter and stuff like that. At the time, as a kid, yeah, I was really upset and used to scream and, Mum, you know what I mean? They're teasing me or whatever. My mum would laugh and then say, leave her alone. But me, there was no real validation in that because you laughed first and then you would say, leave her alone. But then when winter months would come, my mum would then compare me to the cream walls and say I'm fair like the other side. I didn't realise how much of an effect that would have on me as a grown-up when it was happening.
Right.
And didn't realise how can I explain it? I've got loads of white friends and all that sort of stuff, right? But I would have white men that would would approach me, and I would feel like, I can't have any mixed race babies. I can't have any babies.
Really? You're joking.
Because I wasn't accepting of my own complexion. So I thought that having lighter skinned children, would I even accept them? Because I already feel like there's something wrong with me. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So people, like, I just think that people don't realize something that could seem so tiny manifested to be much bigger. And I was like 16, 17 and going sunbed just so that I would be, just so that I would look darker and look in the mirror and be like, I'm black.
Did your mum know that you were doing that? Going to the sunbed?
She knew I was going to the sunbed, but I don't think she stopped to think why.
Why?
Because again, it's her world, you know what I mean?
And what's your family or your support network like? Did you have anybody that you could kind of sit down and talk these things through with?
No, because as a teenager, I was looked at as like this rebel.
Were you a rebel?
I was definitely a rebel. I was definitely a rebel. There's no disputing that. But I was like a rebel with a cause.
What was the cause?
The cause was I was in pain, man. I was in a lot of pain. I won't touch on everything because I'm still in a place where I'm trying to protect people, I guess. You know what I mean?
Why is that?
Partly because my whole life I've been the scapegoat.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, I don't know, being the only girl and I guess being the tough one. And I'm the sort of person, if I smell shit, I'm going to call it. I smell shit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not put the rug over it. Let's not spray perfume.
Right.
This is what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, you know, I come from a family, or I'd say my mum's side especially, let's not talk about nothing bad that goes on. Let's just paint this image and make out that everything's okay. And to be honest, my mum was the only person that was willing to look like the victim or wanted to be the victim.
What do you mean by that?
So say, for instance, us growing up as kids, you know, my dad was abusive. They were both abusive, right? And it wasn't about how it affected us. It was more about me, and this happened to me and that happened to me. Not minding the fact that me and my younger sibling would be curled up underneath the table. You know, we're supposed to be getting ready for school.
Right.
And this sort of shit is happening in the morning. We're petrified. Do you know what I mean? Our parents are laying bells into each other. And then to get to school, my mum's having to put on dark shades to cover puffy eyes or black eyes, or do you know what I mean? Those kinds of experiences was major. You know, or my parents would get into it. My mum would be having an episode and something as small as, if you lot talk again, kind of thing. And I'd be like, that's not fair. You know what I mean? Because I was that rebel with a cause kid.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not fair. And then my mum would lay bells into me, like wouldn't spoon me out. And I know our culture is not unfamiliar to that form of discipline, but it's dangerous. It's dangerous and it's sickening. And, you know, those kinds of things would happen to me. Or I would do something last week and then my mum would be like festering on it for the week. And let's say I'm in the bath, I've said something cheeky and she'd just come and beat me while I'm in the bath with the rag. Do you get what I mean? And like I said, our culture is very accustomed to licks. It doesn't make it all right though. And also, I do feel like, okay, that's part of our culture, even though it shouldn't be, because it stems from slavery. It doesn't stem from us. Yeah. Even if that is the case, you're not supposed to be taking out your frustrations on your kid. Right. And even then, as a young child, I knew that's what my mum was doing.
Really? You must have been really, really emotionally aware.
Oh, yeah. I've been emotionally aware since I was a kid, yeah.
Do you think that that's due to your environment?
I had to be.
Right.
It was a matter of survival. Especially having two parents who were so temperamental. Right. My dad at the time was a lot calmer. But if shit kicked off between my parents, then you just saw completely different sides to them. Do you know what I mean?
So did your dad suffer with any substance abuse or any?
But my dad came from pretty turbulent childhood himself.
Right.
His dad was quite abusive. You know, he was taken to St. Lucia by my gran when he was, I think, 9 or 10 and left there.
Oh, wow.
And it's only recently now, as I get older, that I have certain conversations with my dad. And I'm like, well, how did that make you feel? Because even though you knew that your mum my gran needed to go to work, did you not feel abandoned? Did you not? Do you know what I mean?
Is he open to talking to you about it?
My dad is.
That's unique because
Massive.
you'll find that
Trust me.
older people they
don't want to talk about
They
it.
don't
Because they're taught to shut up though. They're taught to shut up. That's the reality of it. Do you know what I mean? As children, you must be seen and not heard.
Right.
What the fuck is that? Do you get what I mean? So like, I feel like our generation, personally, were the first generation to be like, that don't kind of sound right to me. I've got something to say.
Right.
And I think I was that to the extreme. Do you know what I mean?
So do you feel like the cycle has ended with you?
Certain things, yeah. Because I would say, like, as I said, throughout my teens, it was turbulent. I was in care from the age of like 12. So I hadn't been with my parents.
Why did you go into care?
My mum was really, really unwell. Wasn't able to take care of us. Not really. So my dad basically took her to court amongst the divorce and was just like, I want custody.
Right.
Because my mum was so unwell. That, and she started a new relationship, and that's where her head was at. Like I say, bipolar is about me. Okay. You know what I mean? Looking back, if I was to have a conversation with my mum, I would say there's probably parts of her that regrets doing that. But she'd probably never admit. You know what I mean? So yeah, my dad took her to court basically and won custody.
Oh wow. Yeah. So you were with your dad. So why did you?
From the age of 12.
Okay. So when did you go? Did you actually go into the care system?
Yeah, I was in the care system.
You left your dad?
I left my dad's house. Well, my dad kicked me out basically. Long short. When I lived with my dad was kind of like, right, it's about us. Your mum's toxic. You don't need to have nothing to do with that side of the family. It's about us. Now, as much as I knew that my mum did treat me unfairly and stuff like that, she's still my mum.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? I still yearned for my mum. So you can't keep me from her. And I'm going to call and I'm going to contact my brothers and I'm going to do whatever it is I need to do. So my dad found out one day, he was pissed about it basically and attacked me, and that was the end of that. I came out.
Oh, wow. So your brothers stayed with your mum. They didn't come with
My older brothers, they share a dad.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So their dad passed when they were pretty young. And then my mum had me, married my dad, and had my little brother.
Okay.
So me and my little brother basically were with my dad. My two older brothers were grown. They were in their 20s by that point. Do you know what I mean?
And it's ironic because you're saying like they were married and all of these types of things. And the narrative that's going around in this society now is, oh, well, no relationship will work. It's foolproof. If you get married, then that's what you need to do. And that shows that the relationship is more likely to have longevity, etc. etc.
If you marry for love and understand that you're signing a contract, a business contract.
Facts.
Yeah. But if you marry because you think the grass is going to be greener, or you think that that person is going to give you something that you don't have, that's where you're making a mistake.
Right.
Because everything you have, you're supposed to have, man, within you. So that when you're lacking it, the other person can give, but they're not going to continue to overgive because you're lacking so much. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And I also think it's really important to understand your love languages and how your childhood has affected you, because that's literally the breakdown of how your childhood affected you is literally the breakdown of how you need to be loved. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So for me, at this age, I've realized, okay, my parents were emotionally absent from me. In order for me to have a successful relationship, I would need to make sure that that person is emotionally available and vulnerable to me.
And what does that look like for you?
Vulnerability, compassion, attention, consistency, most importantly, security, because I provide all of that for myself.
What does security in a relationship look to someone like you?
That's a good question. To someone like me, openness, just blatant openness, no matter how ugly it is. Do you know what I mean? I respect that.
It's beautiful that you said that, because I don't think that's said enough. Because men think when a woman says stability, she's talking about financial stability.
Not. I'm good.
So that's why I wanted you to unpack that a little bit, just to be clear, because I knew you were going to come out with something other than that.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
I cater to myself. I've been on my own and been earning since I was 13. Do you get what I mean? So for me, it's not that. It would be nice, have your own things. Someone said to me once, I'm like, I've got my own table. And they was like, yeah, the person needs to bring a chair. And I was like, nah.
So what do they need to bring?
I got my own table and I got my own chairs.
Chair, right.
So Honor needs to have their own table and their own chairs.
Right.
What we choose to do with our double whammy will be something that we, do you know what I mean? Cook up together. How about, okay, let's shop both of them and let's buy a table set together. But you're not going to come to my table with my 6 chairs and put your 1 chair. That don't make no sense.
So hold on, wait.
That don't make no sense to me.
So what do you mean by that? Like, you don't want somebody to come and add to what you have already built for yourself.
No,
you
add
would
to it.
rather
Add
build
to it.
together.
No, add to it.
Right.
But what I have over here, you need to have over there.
I see.
And that doesn't necessarily have to just be financially.
Right.
That means spiritually. That means emotionally. Do you understand? That means physically. What do you do for yourself every day?
Right.
What do you do for you? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Because I know what I do for me.
Right.
And I don't mean, okay, I'm a mum of 2. I got to get up, I got to cook, I got to make sure everyone's at school, clean, do all of that. I don't mean that stuff. That stuff's not for me. What do I do for me?
Right.
I meditate. Do I read? Do I pray? Do I take 10 minutes to just sit down and reflect on my own stuff? Do I journal? Do you know what I mean? Am I conscious of my own behavior, my own actions and the whys behind it? If a person is matching me on those kind of frequencies, then we can talk, because we're not always going to have bare money. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Money don't mean nothing.
How often do you meet someone with the qualities that you've just described?
I don't.
Mid-year. Mid-year.
Respectfully, I don't. Like, I'm not going to say that I haven't met some beautiful people.
Right.
I find there's always something, man. And then what happens to me is I'll find there's something lacking, and then I'll be like, right, is there something lacking in me? What do I need to fix? Because that's not what I was asking for.
Right.
Do you get what I mean?
Right.
I find that a lot of the time it's either, men see that I'm very stable, I do my own thing, I drive, you know what I mean? We're good. Me and my kids are good. Yeah. So men will see that, and then I think they might feel like they need to put on this bravado. I'm good. I got this going for me. I got that going for me. But you've only got that going for you in the moment.
Right.
Yeah. And I experience quite a lot of that. Okay, this girl's a catch. So I want to do what I need to do and say what I need to say to get her attention. Because also, as you know, yeah, I'll post, but I'm not the sort of poster that's just like, yeah, I'm here. Yeah, look at me, look at me. I'm not that person. I'm very, people say that I'm quite mysterious. I don't mean to be. But because I keep myself to myself,
right.
I guess I come across that way. And then when the opposite sex gets a chance to converse with me, it's almost like, yeah. Do you get what I mean? Without them truly contemplating, all right, this girl really does have her shit together. How's she going to take that? And is she going to expect that now, or is she going to expect that as consistent behavior? So it'll be that, or it will be emotionally unavailable men.
What is an emotionally unavailable man?
I think emotionally unavailable man starts with them not being aware of their own emotions, because that's where it starts, yeah? Because if you're not aware of your own emotions, not just aware, if you don't honor your own emotions, because some people will feel they feel and they know what they're feeling, but they'll push it to the side.
Right.
And I think a lot of men do that. And I feel like I'm safe to speak on that. One, because I grew with 3 boys, a mum who was more masculine than she was anything else.
Right.
Do you get what I mean? A dad who's very masculine, and myself who's had to stay in masculine energy in order to survive to this point.
Stick a pin. What does that mean? What do you mean? I've had
survival.
To stay in masculine energy to survive. I want people to really understand what you just said.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yeah,
like, that was too deep to just pass over. What does staying in masculinity to survive look like to you? And why would a woman choose, actually actively make that choice to stay in masculine energy to survive?
It started as a kid, being the only girl in a home where I was very sensitive,
Mm.
and I was surrounded by people who weren't.
Right.
And the one person that was sensitive was overly sensitive.
Right.
So I didn't have no example really of what it was to be balanced within my emotions.
Mhm.
That's the first thing, yeah. So because of that, I just found it very easy to just suppress, tuck everything down, just go about my day, tunnel vision, just make the money down, just make the money kind of thing. And then like certain things would happen to me. I was sexually assaulted at 14.
Oh, sorry to hear, darling.
It's all right. I'm dealing with that now, which is so crazy. But yeah, that happened when I was 14. And again, at the time I was living with my gran who was sick with diabetes really, really badly.
Right.
I was with a friend. We left, we got on the bus, and we were both like, oh my God, did that really happen?
On a bus, public transport?
Yeah, from where it happened. Long short, I was assaulted. I was with a friend. She was in a separate room. I'm screaming, but I'm being assaulted by more than one person. I was raped by one person, but there was more than one person in the room. And my friend was in another room with someone else. I'm basically saying, like, don't touch me, whatever. I've been assaulted. But while I'm being assaulted, I don't know how to explain it. It was like I left my body. That's the best way to explain it. I was there watching, but it was like I was emotionally dead. And then the minute I heard her scream, it was like something went off inside of me. And I just fought my way out of there. Indecent. I think I fought maybe 4 or 5 of them to get out of the room.
Wow.
But because there's something inside me that sort of switches off and I go into this different kind of rage, this different kind of strength comes over me. And I think they just realised we can't control her. We certainly can't shut her mouth, so we have to let her go. So I ran out of the house onto the street because I knew if I tried to get her out on my own, it wouldn't have happened. So I ran onto the street and just started screaming my head off, like they're raping my friend, they're raping my friend. And then she come out like holding her clothes up and, you know what I mean, indecent. But as kids, you don't really filter the urgency and the importance of, oh my God, that just happened to me.
Why do you think that is? Because there's a lot of experiences that young girls have. As you know, I work in intervention and prevention with young people, and I hear so many stories like yours. And these young people, sometimes I will overhear it. Sometimes they are just talking amongst themselves. Like it's normal. Yeah. It is almost normalized. And if you tell men, it's crazy because these things are majority of the time are done by men. Yeah. But if you speak to a man and say, do you know this and this is happening, it's very common. They'll be, I don't know for them, man. I don't know. That's common. I've never seen that because if I saw, and I'm like, where's the disconnect? Where's the disconnect? Because I feel like
an emotional disconnect.
Right. Until
it all stems from there, you know.
Until it's your sister, until it's your daughter, until it's your mum, until it's your close cousin or someone you actually really care about and you're associated closely to. I just feel like us as women, we're not taken seriously enough when it comes to things like that, and we're not protected well enough when it comes from, and you learn that at a very young age.
You do, because I was 14 when that happened to me.
Right. And I'm sure prior to that, there are inappropriate things that happen around
I've been in
you.
loads of inappropriate situations even, where I didn't think nothing of it. As I said, I was in care, so there was nobody telling me, you need to be back at 8 o'clock. You need to be back at 8:30. I was on the street.
Oh, really?
I was on the road.
I wonder, maybe times are different because in my residential home, I'm calling up and I'm staying up all night. When I went into residential,
we had curfew.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, so.
But before I went into residential when I was 15.
I see.
And before that, I was in different homes, different families.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Do you get what I mean? And then even at 15, I was probably in the actual care home for probably about a year. About a year, and then my friend's mum found out that I was in care, and she's like, "No, we're not having that. She's coming to live with us." Oh. Yeah, so I spent the last year of school living with them.
Oh, that's actually beautiful.
It is beautiful. She's still my sister to this day.
Oh, that is beautiful. So how has that impacted you? Because you're talking of so many different environments. And I know from working with these children and actually being close to them, I'm invested in them. I don't just work with them. Do you know what I mean? So I know how it takes me ages to gain their trust. Yeah. And when I do, it's like, but you're going to go home. They're like, but you're going to go home.
Because they feel the sense of abandonment.
Right. Yeah.
And that's another reason why I stayed in the masculine energy. Right. Because I was constantly abandoned by my parents. Then I had my son at 20. I was abandoned by his dad. And a lot of people don't know that your mental does not actually fully form, not even recover. Your mental, your nervous system, the way your brain works, your maturity, everything is not finished until you're 25. That's when your brain is finished doing what it needs to do. 25. So it's from that point going back, probably from the ages of like 5, 6, I experienced trauma every single year up until 27.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? Until I started making, like how many times do I need to get licked down before I'm like, okay, maybe I'm making some really bad choices here. Do you get what I mean? And that I had to learn the hard way in a lot of aspects in life, definitely.
So I'm going to ask you something now. So different people learn differently. That I know through personal and professional experience. One young person, you could tell them, don't do this. This is why you shouldn't do it. And here's an example of someone that's done it. And these are the consequences. And they might think twice and be like, yeah, I might not want to do that. All right, cool. I've heard you. Others, you can show them examples, do them a PowerPoint, whatever, beg them, cry, do whatever, but they're still going to learn on the job. Now, as someone who has been in the care system and you also work with
young people,
right? Yeah. What is your answer to that? Is it a thing where were you a type of child where you couldn't be told because you needed to live it for yourself, or is there a way to get through to these children? Is there a way? Is it patience? What is it? What do you think is needed?
Is trust. I think trust is major because when you're coming from a background where the people who are supposed to take care of you, protect you, like if they don't do that, then you're not trusting anyone. I'm 36 years old. I'm just remembering I turned 36 the other day. I'm 36 years old and I'm only now in a position where I'm learning to trust my damn self and my feelings and what I feel. Do you understand? So I think that it's asking a lot of a young person who's come out of real turbulence, who's come from an environment where, they don't know whether they're coming or going because their parent don't know whether they're coming or going. It's a lot to ask for. It's a hell of a lot to ask for. And they say that as we grow, we develop patterns. And how are any of us expecting a child to just trust because we say trust? That's going to take time. That's going to take consistency. Do you understand? In order to build that. So me personally, I'd say I was both. I felt when there was particular adults whose intentions weren't pure towards me. So I rebelled against that purposely. Right. And then I felt when there were adults who genuinely gave a damn about my welfare. And those were the adults that I connected with. I didn't realize at the time that was my intuition talking to me.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? Now I look back and I think, that person was definitely a snake or that person was lovely. But at the time when you're young, you just act on impulse. You act on what you feel, innit? Do you know what I mean? So that's why I say now, through me growing up and acting on impulse, they weren't always the right decisions. So now as a big person, I'm having to slow everything right down because for a long time it was like fight or flight. Slow down so that I can respond from my natural energy. But it takes a long time to filter through all of those different things. Do you know what I mean?
Especially when you're not being guided.
Before 14, I was taken advantage of. But I think that 14 was like the memorable experience.
What do you think we can do to stop young girls being taken advantage of? Because this is happening far too common. And I'm sorry to say, but it seems like it's becoming or is a rites of passage somewhat for a woman growing up, especially in our communities. And I'm not into sweeping things under the rug.
And do you know what makes it worse for me is that big men take advantage of young girls.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that young girls are not out there lying about their age, because I'm certain I did that at one point in my time. Yeah. But this is crazy, man. This has been going on. And I just think I can't really say. Me personally, I got my son under one arm and I got my daughter under the other. You know what I mean? You're not going anywhere, because the world is a nasty place. Until you have particular tools in order to navigate yourself, the world's a nasty place. I would say that I was extremely naive because I was a baby out there. And anybody who was nice to me, it was like, oh, they're being nice to me, because no one was nice to me at home. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of latched onto that, not realizing sometimes that the person was either a predator. Do you get what I mean? Or the person was probably mentally slow themselves while they were interested in someone that was 6-7 years younger than them. But at the time, I'm thinking to myself, well, they're going to take care of me. They're going to look after me. I'm going to be safe. And I think that a lot of girls feel that way.
You just want to be safe.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And then they wind up in situations, you know what I mean? Whether they're with abusive partners or whatever. I've experienced it all. I've experienced it all, from being vulnerable and not having parents stand in and say, no, not on my watch, kind of thing.
So what's missing? Because I've been thinking recently, and I think, are we still in a really primitive state? Because okay, I'm visualizing it, nature, yeah? So you see a vulnerable young calf or whatever the case may be, and instead of emotional intelligence, compassion kicking
Which
in,
many people don't have,
right, and nurturing and getting that little one to safety, that little one is getting exploited and is actually more unsafe, making itself known. So I'm like, okay, that's the wild with animals. And even with animals, there's some animals that will actually look after.
Yeah, of course.
So with us, why is it that this is a common theme? I was vulnerable. I needed help. I needed to men specifically to protect me in that moment. But all I got was further abuse. And it's like, how do we bring, and I'm not finger pointing and I'm not blaming and I'm not shaming.
Because everybody has a part to play in the dynamic of why vulnerable young people are out there.
Exactly. It's not just, oh, you do this, that, it's all men. Exactly. It's not that. I'm saying, where is the disconnect? What do we need to do? Do we need to make men more aware of their role in society?
I think men and women.
Men and women, right?
I think, and not just their role. I think there's a lot of healing to do, P.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I think there's so many people that are emotionally stunted and they don't even realise.
Whose job is it?
It's our own jobs.
It's our own job. So how do we make people more responsible and take their job seriously then?
We can't do that. All we can do you know what, my gran used to say to me, rest her soul, you can't argue with an idiot. And I'm not saying that people are out there and they're idiots, but what I am saying is, it's like being given a key and you've got the key to your latch, to your letterbox, and everybody else wants to know how to get their letterbox. You've given them a key and they choose not to open their letterbox, or they choose not to look for their letterbox. Let's put it like that. You can't do nothing other than that. What I've learned over the past few years is you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. In the reality of that, there's so many people that are trapped in depression, trapped in darkness, and they don't even know that they've got the key to get out of that hole. Too many damn people. And I just think it's easier to sort of, like, I've gone through what I've gone through, but where I'm at now in my life, I don't blame my parents. It's for me to fix and heal and sort out, put in whatever section needs to. Do you get what I mean? And I don't think a lot of people are really willing or able or have the tools to get themselves to that kind of place where it's like, okay, I feel like this when this sort of thing happens, or I don't like to go into social events, or whatever the situation may be that's preventing them or blocking them from living their life to their fullest. People don't really ask themselves, why, what is it about me? The easy thing to say, oh, I don't get on with that person, or, I can't be bothered, I'm tired, or I just don't feel like it. But why? Why don't you feel like it? Because in my opinion, everybody wants to live their life to the highest, the best version of themselves. But it takes personal work. No one else can take that responsibility off you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
But I just think that for a lot of people, I think I had to get to a certain place in my life where I was like, right, shit, I've had enough now.
You've got to get tired of your own stuff.
This is what I'm trying to say. And as I was saying, some people are comfortable in the darkness and some people are not comfortable, but they won't take the initiative to get the hell out.
It's liberating, I think. What you've described is actually freeing yourself and liberating yourself.
It's freeing yourself.
It's giving you, it's putting the power back on you. Like, not, oh, this person's done this person's that. It's like, okay, what do I have the power to control?
Yeah. And you've got to ask yourself, what is it going to take? And sometimes whatever it's going to take is not going to be comfortable, P.
Right.
I've separated myself from my entire family for 4 years straight. Didn't lay eyes on my mum, my dad, my siblings, no one.
And that was intentional.
Yes, it was intentional. Because after having certain therapy and expressing certain experiences, my therapist was like, well, the people who are causing you emotional distress, you need to remove yourself from them so that you can heal, filter through what you're going through, understand exactly what it is you're feeling. It's a lot of responsibility having a mother who, you know, every other month or 2-3 times a year, she don't want to be here and she's threatening to take her life. And that's a lot of responsibility on someone. Do you get what I mean? Even as a big person, I've now got my own kid. At the time, got my son and whatever, and I'm living where I'm living. My mum's not taking care of herself, all of that stuff. That's a lot of responsibility on a person. And I kind of almost felt guilty as well, being the only girl, knowing that I'm the one who's got everything patterned for my mum. But I need to take care of me because no one's taking care of me. So I need to step away. I went through loads of emotions, guilt, almost like remorse. I almost mourned my family like they were gone because I had to, in order for me to see beyond the cloud of the dynamics of my past and things that certain family members weren't willing to heal in themselves. Do you know what I mean? It's a tough choice to make.
I was about to say that sounds
It was a tough choice to make, yeah.
It does.
I was alone all through COVID, just me and my kids. My daughter was newborn. Do you know what I mean? It was very, very, very lonely, but I found myself in those moments, man. I really found myself.
And you know, when you speak of abandonment, kind of acting as an open wound for your choices and the paths that you chose, how do you overcome that? How do you really and truly overcome abandonment in so many different areas? And how do you make your relationships not suffer at the hands of your past?
I wouldn't say you overcome abandonment because I don't think I have overcome it. I'm just very, very conscious of it. Right. So because I'm so conscious of it, now I start to notice my own behavioral patterns where I might do something and I don't know, let's say for instance, I could be getting close to someone and I start to catch feelings now.
And you're a runner now. Yeah. It's just,
I've got a couple of people that call me the runner still. On a light note, I've got a couple of people like, stop running, innit? Do you know what I mean? But listen, yeah, the minute I feel any kind of emotional instability, the fear just, and I'm sort of like, yeah, I'm gone in it. I'm not really here for this instability. And sometimes it's not even them. It's me and my own personal fear.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
But has that looked after you so far?
Lately, I wouldn't say it had looked after me. It has looked after me over the past, I say, 4 or 5 years since giving birth to my daughter. But before then, I wasn't really aware of it. So, but my behavior was different. So I'd say before then, it was me holding on to a person who was not emotionally, you know, available to me, and me like, why? But I love you. Do you know what I mean?
Makes
right?
sense.
And then now I'm just like, boy, you could love me, and I but here what?
You can love me a little more. You
have to love me a little harder. You get what I'm saying? Because I'm not really ready to step over the line. It's not saying that I'm just completely running, but I feel like a person would need to be so vulnerable, so emotionally open to me that I'm proper like, oh, you got me.
But you know what men call those type of men these days? Simps.
Nah, but
so
they're not simps, man.
They're not. And I really want you to
era, man.
I really want you to push that message out there for the guys to
understand.
Is supposed
to feel, a woman like me, and there's so many women like me out there.
Trust me.
Right? it's about safety. It's about security more than it is about anything else. Safety can look like loving on your woman, daily affirmations. You know what I mean? Just checking, babes, you look beautiful today.
Yeah, I'm imagining
You know, like that.
you with daily
No makeup, no.
affirmations,
You know what I mean? Got a little spot on your face. You're like, you still look beautiful. Yeah, I want that. I want morning messages. I want nighttime messages. You know, like, there's a level of consistency that also provides security. That's not simp behavior.
No, it's not.
That's, in my opinion, emperor behavior.
Come on.
When you were an empress and you're an emperor, you're supposed to make sure that everything in your kingdom is working like clockwork.
It's
Everybody's
governed.
good. That's your job.
Exactly.
As a woman and a man. So, in my opinion, if I can do that for myself and my kingdom, then a man would need to be able to do that for me too.
Right.
And if you can't, or you're missing something and I've expressed and you're not willing to adapt, because it's not about changing yourself, but it's about adapting, vice versa, to be able to allow the other person to feel safe in the love that you want to provide for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I just feel like if that's not there, then
No, I feel you. And I actually don't think, because do you think there's such a thing as a positive trauma response? Because what you just described sounds like a positive trauma response.
it is, but it isn't. Because in the process, you know, there's been guys out there that's been like, listen, I love you. And I can't get past the fear. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit like, I am so scared that I am going to be that vulnerable to you and then you break my heart.
Right.
I'm afraid if I'm going to even be able to come back from that thought. And no, we're not supposed to be thinking about these things, but based on what I've experienced, because that was all before the ages of 25 and certain things weren't even mentioned.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I've got 2 kids, both their fathers abandoned me. That was major. They were like, loads of things has happened where I'm sort of like, okay, this is where I'm at. So answering your question, is it a positive trauma response? To a certain degree, because you're supposed to protect and honor yourself. But whilst you're doing that, you can also be blocking yourself from great things.
Yes, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm aware that I've probably done that in my time due to wanting to protect myself.
Right.
And my kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's not easy.
So, yeah.
Getting to know people and getting over your own boundaries and then
Yeah.
also introducing them into your children's life.
That's the myth right now. But
Yeah. So when is okay, excuse me, when is okay to introduce someone into your children's world? Have you ever felt safe enough to do that?
No, not like that. People come, you want to see me, we're going to sit in my car outside like we're teenagers because you can't come in. I feel like because I've experienced certain things, you know, and unfortunately for my son, he's experienced more than my daughter. He's 15. Do you know what I mean? So he's watched his mum heal broken hearts, kick out long-term relationship partners. He's watched it. So at this point where I feel like he's turning into a young man, I don't want him to witness his mum going, because he's got so many things going on. I don't want him to witness his mum with broken hearts or nothing of the sort. I don't want him to think, okay, mum's happy now, because he's big. He's not looking for a dad. Do you get what I mean? I think what's on my son's mind is I want my mum to be happy.
Right.
So I think for him, it's more like, I don't want him to see men coming in and out. One, for both of them, because I don't want them to think that that's normal, because I don't think it is. 2, I don't want my son to think that that's normal behavior, like that he can be doing that to another woman. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So for me, right now, where me and my kids have done a lot of healing, especially me and my son, I'm just very, very cautious, man, about what kind of energies I allow into our little happy castle. You know what I mean? And that takes time, P. That takes time.
I feel you, even for
because
ourselves.
as well, a lot of men, do you know what it is, right? I wear my heart on my sleeve. So if someone asks me, I will tell them, this has been my experience, this is what I went through. Otherwise, I'm quite closed off, or I can appear that way. Yeah. I feel if a man is not so open and so vulnerable and so soft and so gentle, I'm not going to feel safe enough to be that way. So, you know, they say like, oh, women must submit. If a man does not make me feel safe, I'm not submitting. If a man does not show me that he can be soft and he can be a leader, I'm not submitting to shit because I can do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And I think a lot of men, for me, I've experienced a lot of men that's like, what I say got this one. And I'm like, nah, Gussie. Do Do you know what I mean? It's not running like that because my name's Boss. Do you get me though? So it's about having someone that can see that this exterior, this hard shell that I've got up is due to protection. And they would have to be soft enough to see that. Do you know what I mean? So for me, for a man who's not connected with his own emotional energy, he's not going to feel and know how to navigate someone who is like me, who's got a huge heart, has this cold, like, you know, like Elsa.
Yeah, you need
This
someone
cold,
come
hard
and
exterior.
melt
Not my ice, you know what I'm saying?
I feel you, babes. I feel
Literally,
you.
that's what it is. So yeah.
No, I hear you, sweetheart. So how is it different parenting a son to a daughter? What's the differences? Because when you speak about your son and when you speak about your daughter, I'm like, how does that correlate to your world? Because you know you've got a young man in your house now. I do, yeah. You know what I mean? And then you've got your little one who is a girl. So how do you manage the two, and what differences, what challenges have you had with the both of them?
A lot of people were shocked when I say I found raising my son so easy.
Yeah, I was shocked when you said
it. My issues was about what was going on outside of the home.
Right.
My issues were about like, okay, how do I tell my son how to clean his penis properly?
Right.
Little things like that, that, you know, women don't really, a lot of women may not have to even think about these things if father's around. And even though I grew up with boys, it was still like, right, listen, it was really, she said, it was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable, but I had to learn. And then he went through stages where, you know, oh shit, I found porn kind of thing. And I'm like, yo, brood boy, that is not what happens in the home.
Right.
When two people love each other.
Come on.
That's not how they behave. You know, those are the sort of things that I found difficult. Or like him saying, yeah, mum, I'm into this girl. And I'm like, oh, is it? Sit down, do you know what I mean? Those are the things. Other than that, such a dream. But I think it's also because, as I said, I lived in that masculine energy. So it was easy for me to navigate myself and navigate him.
Right.
When I had my daughter, it was like a culture shock. Yeah, we got everything the same, but that doesn't mean nothing.
Right.
It didn't to me, because my connection wasn't with my mum. So like my connection was with my dad. You know, he'd be like, all right, go and get the toolbox. I'm going to get the toolbox. You know, like I did boy things. I didn't do girl things. I only started wearing makeup when I was about 24, 25.
Oh, wow.
You know, like little things like that. Do you know what I mean? So having my daughter was hard, man. It was tough. This little girl, she was born with bravado, you know, like, I'm here. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, what do you mean? Calm down, I'm here. Do you get me? And she was like that from before she could talk. So it's been a lot navigating. She's very outspoken. She's very confident. She knows herself. Just very different. Whereas my son would look to me for all right, shall I go left or right?
Oh,
you know what I mean? Where I'll say to my daughter, go left. And she's like, what do you mean I'm going right? She's kind of like that. So it has been a challenge to navigate myself, managing my own emotions, patience. You know, they say like you have kids and they introduce you to a whole new level of patience.
Yeah.
Raised my son for 10.5 years and I thought I was a double OG in this. No, it's fine. Do you know what I mean? Everything over my head is fine. Then when she was born and she got to she didn't talk for maybe 2.5 years.
Okay.
She had an undeveloped esophagus, so she couldn't.
Wow. She actually couldn't speak.
She couldn't speak because she couldn't swallow properly. She couldn't, her tongue muscles weren't active, basically. So we had to do a lot of like speech therapy and stuff.
Was she
like
right
that.
eating and things like that?
She couldn't swallow. So she was on a bottle until she was like 26 months.
Oh, bless her.
Yeah, and you know, like piss in the bottle so she could drink because she couldn't swallow large foods.
Okay.
So that was tough in
dumpling,
itself.
yeah.
Right, yeah. What was I saying to you?
You were basically saying that when she came into the world.
So when she started talking, that's what I was saying. So when she got to about 3, it was like she had this hidden vocabulary. Do you know what I mean? It was almost like, what? So you knew how to say that this whole time. Yeah. So that for me was like a mate. Excuse me, what did you say? But mummy, she does a lot of that because she knows, okay, what I said might have been cheeky, but just let me get my point across, kind of thing. So she's very much like that, and that's been kind of a challenge for me because where I'm conscious of children are born with their own personalities, they're born with their own energy. Do you know what I mean? And I think that our generation crushes a lot of that based on our methods of discipline stuff. Right, do you get what I mean? Right. So with her, it's been a challenge because I have to be mindful that I'm not knocking her confidence down, because she's not a naughty kid, but she's lippy. She's got so much to say and she just wants to do everything her way.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I call her granny a lot of the time because she walks around the house like everybody's granny. You must do this and you haven't done that. Do you know what I mean? And that's just new to me. Where usually I just want to be like, can you just go and settle yourself somewhere, please? Whereas my son, I'll be like, all right, sit there. I'll go off, clean, cook, do what I'm doing. And he might be here. But he's looking at me like, Mom, I didn't move too far. Whereas my daughter, I'll be like, all right, sit here.
And
don't move.
Yeah.
Did you hear what I said? Did you hear what I said? And she's like, Do you know what I mean? And then I'll go about my business and I come back. She's not even in the room. She's on her own thing. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know why this is so funny? Because she's got your exact face.
She does.
She's got your exact.
She's so much like me. It's frustrating. That's the moral of the story, really, more than anything.
Mirror.
And I think because I'm getting to know, I would say they're both like me, but he's more of the calculated, chilled, gonna feel this out. Where she's like, yeah, I feel like this is what we're doing. The person who I've tried to humble over the past few years is the person that she is like, yeah, this is what I am. You know what I mean? So if you can't put up with yourself, you're gonna have to put up with me.
Right.
So yeah, I would say it's fun though. And she's also opened me up. I never used to wear pink. I never used to, little things.
That's beautiful.
I know it sounds silly, but it's little things.
Real. It's real.
Like, put me in pink. Who? Where? Never. But the minute she was born, I want everything pink. I want matching. Do you know what I mean? So she's opened me up.
Oh, so she's helped you tap into your feminine.
She's helped me tap into my feminine energy. Yeah, man. She really, really has. She's softened me.
That's really special.
I had to soften girl because she's hard work. You know what I mean? It was either that or be resorting back to the old school. Listen, I'm going to lick you down, Do you know what I mean? It was one or the other. So I had to work on me in order to soften, to be more available to her.
What was the turning point? What made you say, nah, I can't parent like that? I have to stay in this soft energy. What made you do that? What made you come to that realization?
The turning point was literally just her being born and me looking at her in her face and saying, shit, I've got a daughter. And I think that because of the dynamic between me and my mum for so many years, and the dynamic between my mum and her mum, without even getting into it, for me, it was like, I need to change the game, man, and whatever it's going to take. And that's where it began, really.
Right. That's beautiful. Just taking that accountability and knowing that in yourself that you can do
anything.
it,
I say to anybody, anything that's going on that you have an issue with, check with you first, you know, because it usually is to do with you.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And I'm a firm believer of that. So yeah.
So just closing, what advice would you give to parents, and what advice would you give to young people that are having turbulent times, whether that's, they've been in the care system, whether that's mums, dads suffering with mental health, lack of support?
That's a big question.
As someone that's been on both sides of it.
Yeah, that's a big question. I would say for parents, you really need to heal, man. Heal the stuff that you haven't looked at. It's important, not just for your kids, but for you and you want to have an abundant life emotionally. You need to look at that. You need to look at that scary stuff. You need to look at that uncomfortable stuff, address it, and start healing through that. I would say for young people, it's okay. It's going to be okay. And I will say, whoever you trust, whatever person that you look up to, that you admire, if they're willing to help, then seek help from them. You know what I mean? And take your time. Take your time. That's what I would say more than anything.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, sis.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
No problem, darling. I feel like we needed another hour.
Yeah, but it's all right. There'll always be more time.
We have another hour, so we will do that at another time. But I want to also, guys, Jordan is an absolutely phenomenal singer. She's a phenomenal person overall. Entrepreneur.
Thank you.
Diva in the day, whatever you want to call it. She's absolutely amazing. But we have an event called Pod and Party, and this beautiful young lady, she comes, she rocks the crowd every single time. No, truly you do. Like, I don't get tired. When I look back on the footage of me when you're singing, I'm like, I'm popping my zone.
I know.
She takes me somewhere, guys. So please tell everybody where they can find your song, because I know it's doing bits, Body Party,
Yes,
you
Body
said
Party's doing bits.
17,000
We're at 17
streams.
plus K streams
Oh
now.
my
Yeah.
God, that's
So
amazing.
I'm hoping to be at 20 for that track by the end of the year.
Come on.
You can find me on most social media platforms. So that's probably Threads, TikTok, Insta, Facebook, Jordan Music __1, TikTok, Jordan Music 821.
Amazing. Jordan Music. She is absolutely phenomenal. Thank you
Thanks for
so
having me.
much for joining me, my
It's okay,
darling.
honestly. Thanks for having me. It's long overdue anyway.
Honestly,
right?
you've been so amazing. So, guys, you already know Princess and Friends. Like, subscribe, and most importantly, share, guys.
Yes,
share my
share the
stuff. Do you know what I'm
ting.
saying?
Share the ting, you're
Share
nuts.
the love. It's Princess and Friends. Do you know what I mean? But, guys, lots of love. I hope you've enjoyed this interview and managed to take something away from it. Thank you so much for rocking with us. We will see you again next time. See you later.
Bye, guys. Take care.
It's Princess and Friends.